I was just showing up doing what I saw somebody else do, or I was dressing like somebody else told me I need to dress. And I'm doing all these things trying to make it an appearance that I'm, following in your footsteps, only to be told like, yeah, you're still not good enough. Don't let anybody tell you what you are. You were created for a purpose, whatever that purpose is. Number two, if you are somebody who's trying to tell people what they are, stop, because you're damaging people. This is gonna have an impact on the world like never before. About 10, 12 years ago, I started writing another book, right? Part of that just because I was running a nonprofit organization, and I just felt like, kind of with this book, I kind of felt like I wanted to empower the youth that I was working with to have them understand that their circumstances, their experiences are, while relevant, it shouldn't define their path in life, right? It was like, hey, you were created for a purpose, you were created for a reason. Let's figure out what that is and let's step into that. So I started writing about 10 years ago, but I was hesitant to release it. I actually didn't release it at all, right? I was just like, I don't think I want to do this anymore, and just kind of put it down. But the desire to want to get information out to people never left. I had perfected the art of performing quite a bit. And so one of the things that I struggle with is being talented. So because of my talent, it allowed me to get away with just only giving 40% of myself, because most of the circles that I was in, quite honestly, I didn't have a counterpart. I didn't have anybody who was equally as smart as I am, or challenged me in a way that would stretch me and pull something out of me. I didn't have that, right? And so for years, I was just good enough to just get by. To the outside world, it looked good, right? But internally, especially as I started getting older, I started to realize there was so much more to me. And so I would say I was who I am, right? But I wasn't challenged enough to be the best version of myself. I wasn't empowered by anybody. I didn't have anybody really to push me to that next level of greatness, if you want to call it that. So I still was good. I didn't get to become what I would like to say from good to great until I realized I was only doing 40%, until I realized I was only performing. So I'd probably say I was a shell of myself. I wore a mask quite a bit just because of the spaces that I went in. I had to, and I had to make sure that I fit the narrative that people had put around me and what was expected of me. And I did it so well that I didn't realize I was actually even doing it. What ended up starting to happen is, as I started to grow more in my reach and in my ability to get in front of people, I realized that I was the single point of failure. I couldn't be everywhere at all times. I didn't have, like I said earlier, I didn't have a team of people that I could coach up and say, hey, here's where you're going, here's the message we're gonna portray, right? It was pretty much me. Now you gotta keep in mind, I was young. I mean, we're talking, 12, 15 years ago. So I'm in my early 30s. Most people are still figuring out life, right? And I'm trying to get to this place where I'm trying to educate and empower young people in the communities in Memphis who are, underserved and impoverished, right? So I didn't have a team, right? And so I just realized, in order for me to get my message out to the madness, I got to figure out a way to get that to somebody, whether that's starting a business, getting, famous and doing some things where I can just have a broader reach, or putting something on paper. Right. And so I started actually doing curriculums for schools, right, to teach separate things about how to navigate life. Started out with technology, and then kind of grew from that. And so I started partnering with local colleges out in Memphis around, hey, if I develop a curriculum, even for like parents, I develop a curriculum for them to go back and get their GED, right? I recognize that, hey, part of the problem is the parents are having to work so much, single parents are having to work so much to provide, that the kids are pretty much raising themselves. So not only do I need to empower the kids, I also need to empower the parents. And so I just started writing stuff, right? I started writing programs, I started writing curriculum, I started doing college prep, sessions, and I would put together a whole, pamphlet for the kids who never saw this before in their life to say, hey, this is the information you need, right? Get this information, take this information, and you should be able to disseminate it to where you now understand what's required of you to get where you want it to be. Chapter 1 is probably the most controversial chapter in the book. And I'm being honest, I wrote that a lot from a place of I don't want to call it anger, right? Because I wasn't angry, but I did write it from a place of disbelief. And part of that, it was just because I had been told by so many people how to be a leader, or I'm going to teach you how to be this, right? And I talk about this in the book, how so many times they would say that to me, and I would hang on to every word they said because obviously they were in a better role than I was in. So I thought they had the magic sauce to make it work. And then I would go with them and shadow them, and I would see them perform, and I'm like, wait a minute, that's not it, right? If it is, I don't want to be that, right? Because I started to see what you were talking about wasn't what you were living. Everybody kind of said the same thing. Like literally everywhere I went, hey, I'm going to show you this. I'm going to teach you this. I'm going to teach you this. And I'm like, okay, well, great. I'm thinking you are going to teach me this. But when I started watching you perform, I'm like, well, hold on a second, right? So you contrast that with some of the people who were great leaders that I were under. They would always tell me, I'm going to work for you one day, right? And I would be like, I don't have the experience. I'm not that good, right? But they would always say, no, I wouldn't be surprised if you were my boss one day. And some of these people were 2 levels above me, right? And so I had this tension going on between somebody telling me I'm going to work for you one day, and then somebody telling me, hey, I need to teach you how to be blah, 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 whatever you said you wanted to be. In my case, it was a CIO. And when I realized that most of the people who were trying to tell me how to be something, number one, were terrible at the job of doing it themselves. And number two, when I really started to look at like line up credentials, right? I started to realize like we don't compare at all, right? The only difference between me and you is you were given an opportunity. Some of that may have been because you knew somebody who worked in the company. Some of that could have been easily the color of your skin, right? Because in most rooms I go in, I'm the only one that's there, right? And it wasn't a knock on them, and it wasn't me saying that I'm better than them, but the data said something different. And so when I got more of the negative, conversations around, hey, this is how you do it, and I got to see that's not the case, I kind of started to ask myself, like, I wonder how many other people are being told this, right? I wonder if people really don't even understand that what they're telling people how to lead is not, or how to become the best version of themselves, actually only works for the person, right? I had to really like understand that your journey shouldn't be my journey, right? That shouldn't be the standard. We were raised totally different. You had access to things I may not have had access to, right? And so you're trying to make me become robotic like you, which is what I actually became. I actually became a robot. And I talk about this in the book, like, hey, I was just showing up doing what I saw somebody else do, or I was dressing like somebody else told me I need to dress. And I'm doing all these things trying to make it an appearance that I'm, following in your footsteps, only to be told like, yeah, you're still not good enough, right? And so you're like, well, heck, if I'm not gonna be good enough, I may as well not be good enough in being who I am. And so the first chapter is probably the one that's most controversial because we hear all the time, hey, I'm gonna teach you how to be this. And I literally start off the chapter talking about like, God gave you your natural ability to be a leader. That's not something that somebody else can instill in you. Can you practice and bring out those quality traits? Absolutely. But to sit here and think that you can make me be a leader, that's almost kind of a little bit too arrogant in my opinion. And so I like to try to make sure that I wanted to start out the book controversial to say, number one, don't let anybody tell you what you are. You were created for a purpose, whatever that purpose is. Number two, if you are somebody who's trying to tell people what they are, stop, right? Because you're damaging people. You're having people going down a plight in their life, and then 15, 20 years later, they're looking up and wondering, why have I not excelled beyond what I expected? And a lot of times it's because I'm trying to walk in David's footsteps. I'm trying to walk in John's footsteps, or whoever those are, and their plight in life is different, right? They may literally have gotten that job because somebody hooked them up, not because they're qualified, not because they're so good. And so I had to keep that in mind when I wrote that first chapter, because I want to be a shock value. Right? I wanted people to really say, man, you know what? Somebody has been telling me that. I want you to be like, stop telling me that. If you want to give me some nuggets to help enhance who I am and bring out some of my strengths, do that. But this other stuff, nah. Kim is probably the most influential person as it relates to this book, right? Both verbally and non-verbally, Kim won't allow me to be a lesser version of myself. Right? She just won't. Kim knows when, hey, like this is not it. Like I know you. I have the utmost faith in you. I have the utmost belief in you. And she just won't allow me to settle for anything less than what I am. Right? She's not an in-your-face type of person. She's not a rah-rah type of person, but she has a standard that she's gonna, expect me to live up to. And for somebody like me who does have multiple superpowers, you need that, right? Like you need somebody that's gonna force you to say, okay, hold on, I can't just relish in that. I have to be better. And so she was so, going back to me losing the job, she was the sole purpose and why I probably finished this book and pursued, the avenues that I'm pursuing now. It's just because she literally told me, the one person I don't ever worry about is you. There's something about when people expect you to be phenomenal, right? Some people that you may not know, they be like, I know you're going to be great. I wish the best from you. That's a little different than somebody saying, oh no, I expect nothing less, right? I know you're going to have this. I know you're going to figure this out. That's a little extra level of pressure, right? But that's what, a lot of times, that's what we need. This doesn't work if you don't believe in yourself. When people have asked me what the book is about, it's about self-accountability. It's about self-empowerment, right? Not Antonio empowerment, it's self-empowerment, right? Which means you got to believe it in yourself that you can become what you've been created to be. So that's number one. I had, at my previous role, I had a CEO tell me this in my face. He goes, I can talk about you in a glowing fashion to everybody in the boardroom. But until you're able to do that yourself, there's only so far I can take it, right? And so number one is, there is nobody that can help you if you don't believe in that yourself, right? The second thing I would say to people is you got to seek out people that can provide that level of influence for you. It might not be in your home, right? I'm sorry, it just might not be. It may be a mentor. It may be somebody at your job. It may be somebody else in your family that you can look at and say, you know what? That person has some things that I'm looking to attain, right? I might need to get a little closer to them, right? Just so I can understand how they can pull something out of me that I'll be looking for. I talk a lot about this in the book. The word mentor has such a bad stigma around it because there's so many bad mentors who are trying to tell people what to do. I'd rather have a coach, right? Who's going to say, you know what? I see something in you, even if you don't see it yourself, I'm going to pull it out. So to the audience, number one, you have to know this for yourself. Number two, you have to be intentional about the people you hang around. Iron sharpens iron, not spoon sharpens iron. Iron sharpens iron. There's another scripture in the Bible that we don't talk about where it says bad company corrupts good morals, right? I said this earlier. I was around people where I was always the smartest in the room most of the time. So guess what? I'm never getting sharpened. Nobody's ever pulling me. Because number one, they're afraid if they say something and I don't like, so now they get ostracized from the circle, right? Family included, right? Hey, he's this great vice president. I don't want to make him mad if I see him doing something he's not supposed to do. I'm not going to say anything about it because I don't want my gravy train to be pulled from me. You have to be intentional about the company that you keep. I was in a executive leadership course. They asked us to write down who are the top 4 influencers to you. And I had to put my head down because I didn't have 4 influencers that I felt could pour into me. The title is, hey, in a day and time where everybody's trying to tell you how to be something, I'm literally going against the grain and saying, hey, I need you to stop trying to be that, right? And the only reason why I say that is because I want you to stop trying to be something that you already are, right? And I want you to if you're not careful, you'll be chasing something that you were innately created to be for your entire life, and you'll never feel like you've reached it, right? Because you're basing it on a standard that somebody else has placed on you, right? You're basing it on some criteria that somebody has put forth for you to try to attain. This is going to have an impact on the world like never before. This is me. This is my work, right? I did this, and so when I got the book, it was just one of those moments where I literally, and these are so rare for me, that I pat myself on the back and says, well done, right? I've been saying this lately that I don't want to wait till I die before I feel like I made God proud, right? I don't want to wait till the end and then I show up and he goes, well done, thy good and faithful servant, right? Every now and then I want God to smile on the work that I've done, knowing that it's going to please him, right? I don't physically, hear well done, but I can feel it in my spirit. Like, hey, I'm proud of you. Like, that's my son. Like, good job, right? And so I've been now on this journey in life of saying, I just want to make God happy, right? He's my boss, right? And so for this book to come and me put my hands on it, it's me saying, wow, God, I did what you told me to do. I don't know what the results of the book are going to yield, but for my part, I feel like Paul, like I finished the course, right? I completed the mission. I was obedient to what you asked me to do, and I did it. So it's a sense of pride in knowing that I accomplished something that I set out to accomplish.